first on Conor and then on Floyd. So with that, what you've just said, what does Conor need to incorporate? I'd imagine it's going to be just an evolution of his boxing striking. He's not going to come out. He's not going to come out with a traditional boxing stance and come that. So realistically here, with knowledge of what Mayweather does, what do you think Conor needs to implement and bring to this fight? Obviously, the big thing is he's got to get his respect early, and a lot of people's thoughts are he's going to come rushing out at the start and try and engage with Floyd straight away and set a high, fast pace and get it done early. Is that general opinion the correct opinion, or what do you think he needs to implement to get Conor McGregor to win this fight?
Technically?
Yeah.
Floyd seems every bit as strong mentally as Conor, in a different kind of way. To say that Floyd looks shook or scared or whatever, like that's... I mean, did anyone sense that at all?
No.
He's like, I don't give a shit. He's like texting when Conor's saying whatever he just doesn't care.
How is he texting, though? We can't read or write.
What?
How is he texting, though? We can't read or write. I'm just saying.
Oh, he's sending emojis.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, go on. Sorry, go ahead.
He sent me one of a shamrock and said, good luck to your boy. And I told Conor all about it. It was a great conversation.
Thumbs up in the shamrock.
Yeah. So anyway, I agree with the fact that he should start strong early. I think Floyd's always had fantastic endurance. Even in the Judah fight, which people always kind of point to and say southpaws, etc. Yeah. He comes on late. He kind of comes on later, but he did win in the third round. Point being is that Conor certainly should be unorthodox. If he comes out and tries to be hands up, 1, 2, slip, 3, 2, like with drop L steps, he can do that. He does that actually really well, especially for an MMA striker. But I don't think versus Floyd, if you look at the damage that he's taken, whether it was like Mosley's right hand, Judah's was just a beautiful punch, but Maidana caught him on some awkwardness. It's always been kind of awkwardness, if you will. Like Triple G throws he knocked a guy out with this overhand kind of arching 3, where it's like not the angle that he took with his feet, it's the angle of the actual punch. If the camera's here, like rather than just turning your left like this straight, he turned it up and down. Right? So if Conor starts throwing things like that and feinting correctly and just maybe getting real bladed, kind of that like lead leg forward, people call it like karate stance. I would just call it whatever stance. I mean, bladed, because so many different martial arts use that kind of a stance, right? Yeah, he's got to be aggressive. I would say you just attack, maybe you dynamically attack. You change, you kind of pepper up and get your way in to frustrate him and then blast. Kind of the Joanna/Diaz brothers type attack. But yeah, come on strong early. You're not going to wait for someone like Floyd. I mean, that doesn't make any sense at all. You've got to bring it to him. Now, Floyd's saying he's going to bring it to Conor. Again, all these things are they seem like gamesmanship a bit to me. But stay awkward. Do the things that aren't boxing savvy. Like, I don't want to discredit my original point about, that you only have hands and you only have X amount of attacks. True, but you can set things up in wacky ways. And if you listen to Conor in interviews, he cited, who do I always cite in boxing? Constantly. There's a certain fighter, he's my generation, best pound for pound I've ever seen in his prime.
Well,
I say his name all the time.
Mosley?
No.
Mosley? No.
No. God. I thought I brought him up so much you guys were like, shut the fuck up about that guy.
Roy
Jones.
Roy Jones. Yeah, I was thinking, go.
Rocky Balboa?
It's okay.
No.
So with Roy Jones, it was athleticism for sure, which Conor has in spades, and it was his trickiness, if you will. And he also had this kind of brilliant way to attack southpaws. Southpaws got destroyed by him. Not to say that Floyd hasn't beaten southpaws more handily than I think people think. But yeah, he's got to use his athleticism, use weird steps, use weird angles, and try to change it up. Don't stay to your strengths and don't try to get like into the boxing realm too much. You're still throwing hands, but throw them creatively. Try to show Floyd things he hasn't seen.
Yeah.
Perhaps.
That links into something that I think Conor brought up, and it's interesting one. Do you subscribe to the idea that it's possible that some of the things that Conor's gonna do will kind of wake up the boxing world? Like, what he says is that boxers right now are stuck to the same style. They do the same thing for the most part. You obviously have Triple G, who does a lot of different things, but for the most part they do the same things. And when they watch him at the open workout, a lot of boxers made fun of him because of the way he threw his punches, and they were mimicking him and all this stuff. But you subscribe to the idea that it's possible that when Conor gets in there, he might do some things that will wake up the boxing world and say, hey, maybe we didn't have to do certain things certain ways, and maybe there's different ways of doing them.
Yeah, 1,000%. I mean, I'm not going to make this about me, but I've always looked at striking as from the way I teach it, the way that I look at it, right? So all coming up when I was learning, until I met Phil Nurse and started training with him, everyone was like, no, this is the way, and this is how you throw a right hand, and this is... Now, Phil wouldn't let you be sloppy, but once you got your basics, and Danaher's a lot like this too, but in jiu-jitsu, but we'll stick to striking. He allowed you and promoted creativity. So if you had an idea, he'd see it, right? And he'd kind of troubleshoot it and go, why not try this instead? So if I did a, switch stance jab into a leg kick, you'd be like, why not double tap your left leg? And why not throw a knee into a spinning back fist? And why not, whatever it was, right? But he allowed me to be creative, and then I took that into my own kind of stylistic ways, and then eventually into my coaching. But the point is yeah, 100%. I mean, we've seen this time and time again. Like, we still haven't seen like an Eddie Bravo guy, like a 10th Planet guy win, say, Abu Dhabi, right? As different as his style may be, but to say it's ineffective, right, would be crazy as well. Look at what they're doing with heel hooks in jiu-jitsu. I mean, I'm an MMA commentator or analyst, so I have to kind of look at it from every angle. Yeah. In boxing, I mentioned Roy Jones, and you mentioned Triple G. Yeah. Triple G, I think, is just an animal. It's not so much that it's different. He's like a new age haggler. He's got a granite chin, crazy power, awesome shifting of stance, and his ability to cut off the ring is just immaculate. Who knows with Canelo? That's a great fight too, but it's not new. Roy Jones was doing things where in the beginning of his career they would say, kind of like Conor alluded to with himself, like everyone used to make fun of this until it worked, and now they adopt it. And I thought it was a little bit corny, all the boxers like doing their like flail arm. What if he does that in the middle of the fight and then smashes Floyd? People are, you know what I'm saying? If Floyd has so much more to lose, so if Conor goes out there and just gets starched in the first round and he's doing goofy shit, that's going to look pretty bad. But if he, say, makes it even 12 and lands some good punches off of what we might look at as tricks or being tricky, then yeah, absolutely there's something there. And good. It's good for both sports, really. Absolutely. I mean, who does that hurt, you know?
What do you think of the... I know it's only such small footage that came out of the sparring session with Paulie Malignaggi, but something that a couple of people have picked up on was that Conor was in an awkward range for a boxer that he landed that left hand on. Forget the actual knockdown or push knockdown, but forgetting that, the left hand that he landed, it almost looked like everybody's opinion leading up to this was he'll telegraph it, they'll see it coming, but it was almost like Malignaggi thought he was out of range or something. It looked like it came from an out of boxing stance range. Is that something that could be implemented? Yeah, Floyd might see it and think I'm out of range of it, but he's not. That's something that happens a lot as well with a lot of Conor's fights, because I think we spoke about it before, the way he moves guys to the wrong direction, and then it seems like they're out of range, and then he lands. No, what he does is like from southpaw. Remember the like Prince Nassim Hamed thing I broke down like 6 years ago? I mean, it was one of my first breakdowns, where he'll weave to his right, come up with a corkscrew or a leaping uppercut, and then he hits the left straight. He hit Holloway with it a couple times wonderfully, right? So because he's toyed with that, obviously he's watched all your awkward boxers. His favorites are Prince Nassim Hamed, right? He likes Reagan Diao and Lomachenko right now, and he loves Roy Jones. We're talking about those are like the flashiest. If all he would have had to say was like Pernell Whitaker and the cycle is complete of boxers I saw in my lifetime that were awkward, right? Then he would have named every single one of them. So in other words, to extrapolate upon your point about being out of range, so he would dip this way to then leap in with the corkscrew. But now you see him like lean in a lot, and he'll tilt this way and kind of semi-pronate the right hand. There's the camera. And then he'll blast with his left.
while someone's looking for kind of a short-range punch, feeling like they're out of range of it, and he'll skip his left hip to follow in with that left to give him range. He did it more over in not Bama, what was it, Cage Warriors before?
Yeah.
Watch him throw a lot of those left straights that would hit, those non-telegraphed, like very, very straight twos. His left hip and his feet would follow it. So he's using not just that, but he's coiling it too. He does really interesting things. He did it with Alvarez too, where he stands in kind of like a bladed, he'll be bladed shoulder to you, and then as he squares his shoulders, he's like moving around to kind of dazzle you, and boom, there's the punch, you know? So yeah, he could hit that. The only thing that I want to say about that Malignaggi thing is, I heard that was in the 12th round.
Yeah, that's what he said.
When he landed that, yeah. Malignaggi, first of all, had headgear on that looked like it was from like in my basement, all dusty on the other side, right? Like he didn't. I don't know. I wish I knew more. Or I could at least see all the rounds.
Yeah.
But he did get clipped. Nevertheless, we only have what we have, right? And like I said before, he pronated that right hand out straight to make it look as though his jab could only reach this far. But he does a weird thing where he's not blading it, right? So his shoulders are square, but he's making it look like he can only go so far, when in reality, if he had turned his shoulder in, he's got a long reach for his height.
Yeah.
So he's making a deception of about 6 inches by just turning his hip slightly in. And then all of a sudden, when it's in this way, he does it again, brings the arm down at the same time. Because as you know, as you pull one punch back, you pull the other one back, you're adding length and you're adding power to the opposite or coinciding punch, if that makes sense. So, yeah, I mean, there's something to take from it. He was like, if you notice, Malignaggi was kind of shelling too.
Yeah.
So I don't know if he was brought in to emulate. I don't know. Something feels a little shaky about the whole thing, but either way, he got clipped by it. I mean, who's going to take that kind of punch for nothing? You know what I mean? Like, no one's going to take, like, here's $100. Let me punch you as hard as I can in the face. Like, most people are going to say no, you know?
It's very interesting because it'd be interesting to see what he can land. Because the one that I was actually talking about, the punch that he throws a lot, is remember the Mendes fight when the finish,
and it was like
where Mendes was moving to Conor's right, and he was clearly open.
Traps.
He was clearly open for the right hook, but he doesn't throw the right hook. He overextends on the left, which looks like it shouldn't land, and he almost touches his own knee. It was like a pitch. It was like a baseball pitch.
Are you talking about the one that finished it?
Yeah.
Well, I call this a double tap. People use different nomenclature. I call it, like he did it against Seaver too, where he traps their outside to his weak side on the right, and he'll tap him. He did hit Mendez's chin as like a rangefinder, but he doesn't range find with a straight jab. He range finds with a round punch that clips, and that actually makes that power on that 2 more. And he knows the button spot to go through. So he's moving with this to then create an angle that gets through the chin from here. Does that make sense? So he blocked an escape route while in the meantime setting up his chin. I mean, that's this kind of shit you can't teach that. That's just incredible instinct. And the thing against Seaver wasn't so different. It just made Seaver square. It didn't end up being a through shot the same, but it was the same principle. He trapped him with a long into that straight. He's wonderful with that combination. Now, if Mayweather doesn't watch any film, I mean, anyone can get caught with something like that. The way he does it is it's so sequitur. It's so bang. You know, that's why I call it a double tap. It's like with a handgun, you know? Pretty incredible. Is that kind of what you're speaking on?
That's exactly what I was talking about,
okay.
So that's Conor. That's what Conor can bring. I think the unpredictability nature of it, what he's going to bring, will be something that Mayweather will have to figure out. But Mayweather is the ultimate chess player. He's considered by many as the best defensive boxer of all time. So
I think the clinch is going to be interesting too.
That's something that
there was a bit of clinch work in the Malignaggi sparring footage. Didn't see much of it, but there was a little bit where he was actually, it looked like he was almost hand fighting. It was weird.
It was a little awkward. It was a little awkward, but again, that was late, so who knows, right? It would have been more interesting to see what was going on in the second round. I wanted to say this one more thing, and I'm plugging Ajar and Phil Nurse a lot today. Hopefully he's watching. But when I first clinched with him, like we used to do light sparring. Obviously we didn't go hard or anything, but Phil's small. Like I probably had back then I don't know, at least 50, 60 pounds on him, maybe more. And I couldn't do much in the clinch with him, like with his Thai clinch sensibilities. And if I wanted to, if I had a clear shot to him, I could pick him up with one hand probably, you know? Like I was stronger than he was, but his technique was just that much better, right? A boxing clinch, what you're trying to do and what you're doing defensively and where you're picking your shots is way different than a Thai clinch or a Greco clinch or a name the clinch, right?
Yeah.
So it's not just strength. It's a lot of it is technique, and I think that's kind of something people aren't speaking enough about as is, you know? Yeah. Anyway.
I know you're going to move on to Mayweather, but one more question about kind of the setup that Conor has. Do you think it's really, really smart of Conor bringing in the likes of Joe Cortez, considering he's going to go in there looking to see how far he can push the limits of boxing and see what he can do in the clinch, what he can do in certain positions? Do you think that's even smarter than bringing in, you know, even more good sparring partners, bringing in a really good referee who can kind of tell him, okay, this is as far as you'll probably be allowed to push a clinch or this position or whatever?
Yeah, I never even thought of that. I actually made fun of it because I'm like, why is there a guy in a fucking bow tie in the ring? It's like, this is ridiculous. You're in a gym. Like when I made that video I made the other day, I was like, if I don't know if anyone's been in a training camp, but this isn't normal. Yeah. This shit is not normal. And I never even considered that. And that goes kind of within the line, yeah.
I'll edit that into a little clip for Facebook.
I didn't even think of that, but to speak on to the awkwardness or of the tricks, we'll call them, maybe he's testing the parameters of what tricks he can possibly throw or not throw, right?
By all accounts, he's had point deductions and everything in the fight.
Yeah.
What did you say? Point deduction?
Yeah, he had point deduction in the Malinaji one. Well, Dana White is quoted as saying Conor won all 12 rounds, but you'd score at 10-2 because he got points deducted in 2 rounds.
Yeah, something like that, yeah. So he's obviously being, you know, he's pushing the limits there.
Robin Black, apparently he was doing a breakdown for, I don't know if it's UFC, whatever, it's something.
His own channel it was. Yeah. Apparently he was at the gym.
But yeah, he was given footage. Apparently footage was given to Showtime to put on All Access, and they didn't use it. This was of the Malinaji fight. But Robin Black has seen it and since said it's more of the same. And it's the earlier rounds.
So yeah, why would he lie?
Yeah. Well,
especially if it comes out.
It's going to come out.
All my fellow analysts, I speak to him the least.
Yeah.
Of all the guys. Besides like a Dan Hardy or I speak to Rogan. I'm much closer to Joe Rogan than I am Black, right? Yeah. I talk to him privately. I don't know Robin Black. I've reached out to him. I don't know, whatever. I respect the guy. But he doesn't strike me as someone that would lie. Yeah. You know what I mean? Why? What do you gain from lying?
Yeah, especially if
in his position, you know?
Yeah. It
doesn't make sense. So
the footage
that's interesting.
Yeah, the footage will come out. So again, it'd be interesting to see it.
If they're talking about the Malinaji fight, if Conor can do well, you know, if Conor looks decent in the Mayweather fight, people are going to be talking about Malinaji fight, especially the way it went. If that fight does happen, we'll probably never see that sparring footage because they're not going to release sparring footage before a fight, so who knows.